Baking sourdough can feel intimidating, but this easy recipe delivers bakery quality bread that's crusty, airy, and perfect for beginners. The first step is to start with a strong sourdough starter that's at its peak and filled with bubbles, having been fed about 4 to 6 hours earlier. Add about 80 or 90 grams of your active sourdough starter to a bowl set over a kitchen scale, and then add your water and just whisk that together. Add your bread flour and then sprinkle the salt right over, and use a wooden spoon or a rubber spatula to combine the dough ingredients. And then you're going to need to switch to using your hands because this high hydration sourdough recipe is much easier to mix that way. The dough will be really sticky and shaggy at this point, but don't worry, cover with a kitchen towel and let it rest for half an hour and it'll be much easier to work with. Place the dough in a container with straight sides if you have one, because it'll be much easier to see when it's done proofing. Then you can do some stretch and fold. Just lift up one side of the dough, stretch it up, and put it back down in the center and work your way around. This will help develop the gluten and the structure, but isn't totally necessary. Cover with a damp towel and let proof until the dough has doubled in size and is filled with lots of little bubbles and is nice and light and puffy. Gently coax your dough out of the container or bowl onto a lightly floured surface and gather it up into a little ball. You can tighten it up a little bit, but be very gentle with it, and then let that rest while you get your proofing basket ready. There are several ways to shape your sourdough. My favorite is into an oval. So the way I do that is by first gently shaping it into a rectangle, and then taking one short end and folding that into the middle, and then the other end into the middle. And then working from the other end, roll the dough gently up into a burrito shape. You want to slightly stretch your dough as you're working towards yourself so that there is some tension to the final loaf. You can pinch the ends and then place it seam side up into your proofing basket. I like to add more tension to the loaf by knitting the sides together. I just grab the sides and kind of stitch them together with my fingers about 3 times. Now it's time for the final rise, which happens in the refrigerator to help the structure set up. So cover up the dough, and you can put it in plastic also to help it stay hydrated. And when it's time to bake, you take it out of the fridge and invert your loaf on a piece of parchment paper. Dust the sourdough with some rice flour if you have it, because it doesn't burn as easily, or just regular flour, and you're ready to score. The shallow cuts that just go through the surface are decorative, but you'll need one deeper cut that will allow for the oven spring and the bread to really rise nicely. This homemade sourdough bakes best in a preheated Dutch oven with the top on and then off, and it gets perfectly crisp on the outside, and the inside is lacy and filled with lots of beautiful holes. This is my go-to sourdough bread recipe that's so easy to make and so good. I hope you love it as much as I do.